Alabama, and welcome to a new season of the Inglorious Pastords, the Blue Edition.
Indeed.
Apparently, we've got the blues on today, Raj.
We do.
We did not plan that.
The dark hat going. Yes,
dark
it's a
hat.
very coordinated today. Like mom and dad. You know, our clothing matches.
How are mom and dad? Apparently, I visited him last weekend and was unaware of it.
Great when they remember visits that you didn't make.
I know, that's really good. I'm getting credit for a visit that was actually a non-visit.
Yep.
So that's pretty solid. I think I'm going to start a rumor for next weekend that I visited and just see how it goes.
Start rumors that, aren't you glad that I fixed your lamp in your room?
Yep, got that taken care of. And your coffee maker works now too.
They'll be right.
Thanks to Bruce.
Right.
Bruce did absolutely nothing, but it's there. I'm good.
Our mom and dad are in assisted living in Chattanooga and about 2 hours away from Huntsville.
Yeah.
And we're
2 hours and 24 minutes away from Bluntsville.
But they are known for, and now everyone at the assisted living and the staff and everything knows that they like to coordinate their clothing. Mom has dressed dad for years, and I've said that's a part of the way of Jesus that has never taken hold of me. Joy, my wife, would never be able to dress me. I'm just sorry, I can't do that.
Yeah, my wife doesn't dress me. My wife will give me unsolicited advice about my clothing choices at times. But
Joy's given up.
It's okay. This is not happening.
No, it's been.
You don't even get that. You're wearing that?
It's not. I mean, there's not even a subtle anymore. Like, you ever thought about ironing?
Out of everything in your closet that you could possibly pick out, Bruce, you chose that. You said, that's what I'm going to wear today. It's like me when I look at the Facebook profiles. You ever look at Facebook profiles and just get tickled because it's the person looking at the camera going, and they choose that for their profile picture. I'm thinking, of all the pictures out there, picture land, that you could choose for your profile, you're going to pick the one where you look confused and somewhat angry. And you want people to recognize you around the world for that one.
Well, I can't laugh. I just don't pay attention. Likely my Facebook photo is probably 15 years old.
I need to go look. It probably is. I didn't even think about that.
I'm just merrily going along. I know
I change mine about once a year.
The background photo, which was like our family, my kids and grandkids, that's like 6 years old or something.
Mine, that changes a lot of mine because of whatever I'm pitching that month. Like right now, it's got Machu Picchu in the background.
There you go. You're psychologically trying to influence.
Next month, it'll be Iceland. I'm trying to play. I do that more now. It's so funny. I change the letters in front of words. I plip. Did anyone else get that? I am planning a trip to Iceland.
Now, how do you know? So,
or I'm planning to trip.
Are you now just putting all the countries in the world in a basket on a piece of paper and you draw one? My next trip is going to be Thailand,
Yemen. Yeah, that's
yay for Yemen.
Yeah, there's certain trips you just don't think are ever going to really work out. That would be one of them. No, I really look at what's trending in terms of travel. So Iceland is like a number one. I bet you if we looked it on Google, that would be like the number one travel place right now.
Really?
Everybody loves it. It's called the land of fire and ice.
So you look
more fire than ice these days.
You do a search, perhaps, a trending. Oh, your world is so funny.
Well, you check things, just different things.
Sure. Yes, you're right.
Top travel destination 2024. Well, no, Paris. Paris is number one.
Paris? Well, that's been there for a while.
It's been there for a while. Kosovo, also in the top 20.
What?
Go figure.
What?
I had no idea. No, when you think of adventure destinations, I should probably say adventure destinations, because Paris would be like, I want to travel to Paris. I mean, who doesn't want to go there, right?
I guess romance destination or art or...
Yes, art and romance destination. That would be Paris, as it were.
Yes, I think there's X number of Hallmark movies that are in Paris.
Well, usually the Christmas Hallmark movies are in something falls. So
Christmasville or
Christmasville, Christmas Falls, Snow Falls. It's just fun.
Oh, it is.
But I love this time of year, Raj. This weekend kicks off hike season, and it's like boom, 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 boom. I mean, they're happening fast this year. So it's like Walls of Jericho this weekend, then I'll leave for Patagonia for the next 2 weekends.
Patagonia.
Get back from that, I go on the Appalachian Trail, on Snowbird Mountain. Get back from that, and I take a group to Max Patch Mountain. Get back from that to another Walls of Jericho. Then we go on vacation. Then it's 2 trips in the High Sierras. Then boom, it's off to Peru for Machu Picchu at the end of June. And then July is pretty much speaking engagements in Michigan.
So 2 things that brings up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see you very much.
No.
And we're only going to have 3 Pastords over the next 5 months.
Well, fortunately, most of my travel is on the weekend. So the Pastords is a midweek thing. Hump day, as we like to call it here on the Pastords. You've never said
we
that
just
before.
call it Hump Day. Well, here we are back again on Hump Day.
On the Pastords. Just trying to help you get through another week.
We're just
people.
humping away.
Wow. So I don't have any segues for that at all, Raj.
So, what are you feeling the urge to move us from the silly to the sublime?
Well, yes. Roger apparently lost his filter today, which is surprising because usually it's intact. But now
That's what happens when you lock your keys out of your car.
Well, Roger's having a tough morning.
No holds barred. It's
No
like
holds barred
whatever.
So yeah,
I might cuss. I just whatever today is just.
Yeah, hopefully we have no sound today. Okay? We're just hoping for that right now because Roger's in a bad place. No, I was randomly reading. So this is one of those mornings that, I just finished the book of Matthew because I read through Holy Week and kind of Jesus's last week in Jerusalem, and then
You got all there was to get out of that.
finished the Great Commission on Sunday. And so this morning I just randomly opened the Bible to Ezekiel. I don't know. I don't read in Ezekiel a lot, but
I don't think many good conversations start with. I just randomly started reading in Ezekiel.
well, but this is going to be a good conversation to have in a political year, in a political season.
Oh, we're going there.
We're going there again.
Great.
Once again, hoping we do not have sound this morning. No, it's just interesting. I've forgotten this passage that I had highlighted several years ago that struck me. So in Ezekiel, when they're talking, we're coming to the end of the book, and he's talking about the allotment of the land. So when the people return, there's going to be an inheritance for every tribe. So all the 12 tribes of Israel.
When they return, where are we coming?
Oh, I'm assuming when they're returning, this is my assumption, when they're returning back from their captivity.
Okay.
So they're in captivity. Are they in captivity in Ezekiel? I think so.
Well, that's what I'm not. Yes.
Anyway, he talks about dividing up the land for the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is, and he gives actual borders. And then he said, now, he finishes this whole passage with saying, now, you must also allot as an inheritance land for the aliens that have settled among you and that have children. You must treat them just as the native Israelite and allot them an inheritance. And it struck me that this was an interesting command in the Old Testament, because when you think about the Old Testament and the nation of Israel and the Jewish people, God's chosen people in the Old Testament, God makes this special provision for people that have settled in the land, that are working there, that have started families, that have children. And he says, you're to allot them land as an inheritance, which is interesting, as inheritance is not something you buy. You're to charge them X number of dollars for the land. No, it's this giving it to them. And it just made me think about Matthew 25, welcoming the stranger.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus talks about we talked about, I think even last week, the omissions. When we think of sin of commission, there's the sins of omission that are pointed out in Matthew 25. But the importance of welcoming the stranger, the importance of welcoming the alien. But I was all over the place. But I was saying God's heart for those that are oppressed and that leave a country because of oppression and flee to another country. It's happening worldwide in different places in the world right now.
Right.
The war in Ukraine, the war in the Holy Land.
The Bible is full. All the pages of the Bible.
Yes. Jesus.
Yes.
I mean, his parents, they're being oppressed in their native land, Bethlehem, so they have to flee to Egypt.
Yep.
And so Joseph has to get a job there. They have to settle there for a period of time. But it made me think what Americans typically think about land, and dare I say, even sometimes American Christians think about land and the importance of land. I remember this, you won't remember this, but I remember this little ditty from elementary school that we learned to sing. I don't think it was taught us. I think this was the kids' song, but it was, "This land is my land and only my land, from California to New York Island. So you better get off or I'll blow your head off. This land was made for only me."
Oh, I don't remember the only me version.
Well, that was this, but I thought it made me think that there's a lot of people that think that way. This is my land, and you can't take it from me. And gosh darn it, I'm going to protect it with my guns, because God, guns, and land. That's that's the primary. Anyway, just made me think, how many wars could be averted if we didn't see land the way that we see land? Even when I think about people that have settled in Israel, people that have settled in the nations around Israel, what if we just allotted people an inheritance? What if we welcomed the strangers? It made me think, I know I'm all over the place, but it made me think about the Statue of Liberty and what's engraved on it, which is, "Bring us your poor and your oppressed," welcoming him to this land of opportunity and a new vision. And it reminded me that we took the land from Native Americans.
No, it's the picture I've seen recently on Facebook. Native American holding up a picture of Native Americans. It says, "If you don't look like the people in this picture, you're immigrants."
Right.
Yeah,
Right. No, I'll never
actually we're the immigrants.
We're the immigrants. Well, and in one sense, we are the occupiers. I mean, in that.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget it was a talk given by an Indian, Native American, at the CCDA conference about 10 years ago. And he said, imagine if you had a bicycle and you lived in a neighborhood and you rode your bicycle. And then one day another family moved in the neighborhood and stole your bicycle, just took your bike. And no one did anything about it for the next 30 years. But you happened to see your bicycle in their garage and you said, "Hey, I want my bicycle back." And they said, "No, it's ours now. It's our bicycle. We've had it for 30 years. It's our bicycle." Anyway, he talked about how we see land. He said, where you're sitting right now, and he told us the exact tribe that owned this piece of land. He said, "You're right there where the Washita Indians had their land." And he sort of finished the talk with this, "And we want our bicycle back." I mean, it was just very interesting. He said, "If you don't think that you feel the same way about property that I do," he said, "I want each of you to just lay your cell phone on the floor and I'll come and take all of them for you." It was just it was very poignant how we, in our minds, sometimes even rewrite history, and all that to say, God's heart, even in the Old Testament, with the chosen people of Israel, he says, "I want you to allot as an inheritance, a space for the aliens who have settled among you and who have children." And I just thought, the compassionate heart of God, wanting land not just for the chosen people, but for all of his people. It's like the kingdom of God from its inception was always about all nations. So it just made me think, maybe we should talk about it on the Pastords and rethink some of the things that we parrot about immigration.
No, it's fascinating. Gosh, there's so many places you could go. But even if you think about the Bible's this picture, really, of the church and God's family, sort of beginning with Israel, actually a national group of people, and others are folded in. When I say
grafted in was a
right,
word that
God is always wanting. So where we're building these identities that divide, you see this pattern of God. I look at God here. He's not. There's not this concern that the immigrant is going to dilute Israel any more than grafting and bringing in all kinds of other people into spiritual Israel, if you would. This idea that
Right.
Jesus, the kingdom, and I guess it just gets me thinking about where we get tied into national identities, how often national identity and an obsession with that works against the heart and ways of God.
And it works against the kingdom of heaven.
Works against kingdom of heaven, right?
You know, this, even when I finished Matthew, he's giving this what we call the commission, but it's this, once you go to all the nations. In Matthew 24,
Yes.
when he talks about the end coming, he said, this gospel will be preached as a testimony to all nations before the end will come. And I'm like, man, that's just that's got to be mind-blowing for those disciples to hear. The majority of 11 of them Galilean Jews. And he's saying, this is for, and it's interesting, he said Judea, because they were from Galilee. So there was a certain amount of, there's a tiny bit of enmity there from what I can tell. Galileans were a second class sort of citizen. Samaria,
Right.
and then Jesus says Samaria,
Right.
which is now fifth class citizen. We're skipping several classes. And then the ends of, literally the ends of the earth.
And in if you start thinking Romans. I mean,
exactly.
Dregs of the earth, ends of, in other words, that's going to take in all the countries that want us, even if I think today, all the countries that want America obliterated, that really, I mean, or people groups that, God wants them in his kingdom.
Roger, I just thought of something crazy. I love how God works and how these things are taught in Scripture. The first person to bear witness to the reality that Jesus Christ was the Son of God after his death, the first person after his death to speak it was a Roman centurion. Surely this man was the Son of God. I mean, God's always using this person who's in charge of having him killed.
Right.
Speaks a testimony, a witness to who he really is. That's powerful.
And we've talked about, you could make the case that the first missionary is the Samaritan woman.
Absolutely.
So early on, Jesus goes to Samaria, and this gal comes to believe he's the Messiah. She runs back into her village. And so she's proclaiming, like a John the Baptizer, she's proclaiming the coming of Messiah.
She's an apostle. She's
She's
a person who's been given a message. This is what I taught at Easter Sunday at Marlena's family's house, because I didn't just want to do a prayer. I wanted to talk about the Easter story because I was reading in Matthew. But I realized it's like the first women apostles. It's so fascinating to me that post-resurrection, God determines the first people that are going to see Jesus and give testimony for his resurrection and be given a message for the brothers are women. There's at least 2 women that are there.
Yep.
And the angel of the Lord speaks to them. So they're given a message. Take this message to your brothers. And I'm like, Jesus, even as his resurrection, gives so much dignity and worth and value and an apostolic message to women to go and share with their brothers. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. He could have waited till Peter and John, rolled in there, because they eventually got there. But women who did not have, who were not considered credible witnesses in court, and yet it's like I think Zach pointed it out. He had read something that said, if you were making all this up, you wouldn't use the first witnesses to be a couple of women. That would make it incredible.
There are all these places where God humbles national pride or humbles gender pride. Or humble. Even again, the fascinating story, we've talked about it. The people seeking the baby Jesus, seeking the Messiah, are coming from foreign lands. You would want a story of a group of devout Jews who saw the star and were compelled. But there were seekers.
This is where I need to insert. You can't make this stuff up.
No,
you really can't.
It's the thing where it's unexpected after unexpected after unexpected. But part of it shouldn't be. When you look at, you're coming out of Ezekiel, but there are countless places in the Old Testament where God's heart for immigrants, and other nationalities, there a place where in the law you're to treat strangers and the poor and like your own brothers.
Yeah.
It seems like God is repeatedly breaking down this of a brotherhood that's just built around people who look like me, people who worship like me exactly, or people who, this is not a new way of God showing up.
And it's the why the gospel is so attractive to the outsider. Jesus and the Father were always including the outsider, but that makes some insiders upset. I mean, it really was. I mean, when the Sanhedrin made the decision to kill Jesus, the final statement was, if we let him keep going like this, we're going to lose our place in our nation.
Yep.
So it's like we've got to kill him, and that nationalism, and yet they were included. Jesus said, "How I've longed to just gather you like I'm gathering all the nations, but you would have nothing to do with it. You absolutely refused it." Their national pride caused them to miss the kingdom of heaven, the gospel of Jesus Christ, the good news.
They didn't want that to be true. They didn't, and I think this is still one of the things that's in play. Where do we want a God who wants everyone?
Yeah.
Do we realize? Are we paying attention? Like there are not going to be in the new heaven or earth the idea that there are going to be nice neighborhoods and then neighborhoods you don't want to be, that we're going to have walls and fences and no, there's going to be that God is longing for all to be a part. And this is where, at the very least for me, when it comes to the question of immigration, I realize there are all kinds of complicated
absolutely and that's
issues.
There's a complexity, there's nuance. I don't want to take that out. I did want to get to what I sensed was the heart. The heartbeat, though, was to make space for the outsider.
No, right. And don't. The thing is, sometimes without realizing it, we realize what's controlling our narrative might be more our political party, might be more the church we grew up in, might be more our family of origin, might even be more culturally influenced than scripture influenced, than Jesus influenced.
Yeah.
What I can't too quickly assume is just when you see God's heart repeatedly stated in very practical terms for how you need to care for outsiders in your land. Well, like the idea, for instance, of a closed border, entirely closed, first of all, just doesn't fit anything that I see in the pages of Scripture.
Yeah.
And even as we wrestle with, okay, who would be in and who would be out, like our current system, for instance, tends to favor the already wealthy or privileged, the people who have a lot of money, or the people, and you have a kind of a system, and we're comfortable with immigrants coming in that can do jobs for us, that can be medical people that are from India or other places that are outstanding scientists or whatever. But the needy immigrants, those who might absorb our resources, no, we're open to immigrants that will
expand and enhance our resources.
Right.
But here's the thing. That's why I say sometimes I think we parrot something maybe from our political party.
Yep.
But I'll hear people say, well, they're going to be taking our jobs. They're taking our jobs. And I was just thinking, I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, I don't know of anyone in any circle that I know that wants to be paid $10 an hour to work in the hot sun, laying brick and mowing lawns. And in other words, and unemployment is like the lowest in like 50 years. That's certainly not the case, but we parrot those things because it creates this sense, hey, you almost have to create a sense that something's being taken from us,
right,
so that others will get on board with this. And I'm like, no, I don't, they're not taking my jobs. And even when you go back to Statue of Liberty, however far away we got from that, there didn't seem to be a concern then about people taking their jobs. It's like, we want more and more people here because we've got more work to do than people to do it.
Right. And you have, of course, you have more people coming in, more jobs are needed.
Right.
And even where you look at where, I mean, you're, sometimes even what you're bringing up is where we'll hear a thing, but we haven't necessarily thought through it.
We haven't thought through it all the way.
We haven't, just because sometimes there's a particular thing we don't want to be the case. And the reality is, here's a classic example, even as with a lower birth rate in America and the boomers getting old and needing more caregivers, you're actually going to need a surge in caregivers.
Oh my goodness.
A massive.
We're experiencing this personally, just as we're
Right.
even looking at our parents and
So the comedy is we could actually be working against, in other words,
what we need most right now.
in other words, where the birth rate's going down, we're having few people, and we're actually, if you're looking down the river, we're going to need more caregivers than ever for a population that can no longer work at a point.
Yeah.
There's a tipping point here. The reality is the idea, just quickly assuming, oh, more people, we could be shooting ourselves, not only in the foot, the leg, the kidney, the
Heart. I just love that you said look further down the river, because most people would say as you look further down the road, but Roger chose river. I love that. That's what no one thinks about. Look further down the river. It's like we just went back to the 17th century. We don't have roads, we have rivers.
No, but this is the thing where I think about, like even in outdoors, like a great navigator on a river. They're not looking at, everything's looking calm right now.
They know what's ahead. You're right.
They're looking downstream at the rapids that are coming. This is what I'm saying.
What's all that whitewater? What's that sudden drop off?
I hear a large sound. I hear a loud sound. What's
like
that?
A waterfall.
Well,
I wouldn't worry about it.
But I think that waterfall is coming. So here's the comedy. This is once again where God's not trying to hurt us. He's trying to help us. And it's not seeing outsiders or immigrants as a threat. Look at how they can be a benefit, but be careful of narratives. And this is where, because I think God pushes back. Be careful of narratives that the immigrants are simply freeloaders, dangerous, criminal type, lazy, because once you take on that, that's going to affect how you treat people. And you're hearing those messages.
Right.
You're hearing those messages within, especially in the political sphere. And what are we listening to more? Popular cultural narratives, or are we digging into the scriptures? Or even I would challenge listeners. Look at the words in the Bible. Stranger. Do a search on the word stranger. Outsiders. A search on.
Good word.
Then, and see what you find. Look in the pages of the Old Testament, and let's not just pull out, cherry pick a few Old Testament passages that we'd love to go to about maybe immorality or this kind. Well, let's look at the other things that the prophets were saying and God was saying about immigrants and outsiders and
well, and remember the teaching in Matthew 6:33, seek first my kingdom. You know, it goes against it's not just a Republican thing. It's both Republican and Democrat, this idea of America first. And I'm like, no, I mean, Jesus actually said the first shall be last. So if you're going for that, then but Jesus said, no, it's kingdom first. It's always kingdom first. Right. And the kingdom includes every nation, every tribe, every tongue. So that's why we do have to be careful, but before we parrot certain slogans without thinking, what would Jesus's take be on that slogan? And would it be something that he repeated?
Do we think,
or would he challenge it?
Jesus would make us uncomfortable like he did everybody when he showed up on the planet. No, not me.
Yeah.
Jesus and me, we're like this. No, we're
Yeah, Simon the Zealot. Israel first. And Jesus is like, not so fast, Simon. Well, this has been an enjoyable, non-political edition of the Pastors. We're glad you joined us. This new season, apparently we're going there. We are
season 17. We're jumping off the cliff.
We
jump with us.
That what Roger said.